We could be on the brink of a new Cold War, fought not with missiles, but with data and internet access. In this critical video, we'll explore how the struggle for digital dominance is reshaping our online world. You'll discover the alliances forming, the technologies at stake, and what it means for your digital future. Don't be caught unprepared, the battle lines are being drawn. I'm Evan Goldstein, I'm a licensed professional engineer, and I'm a data scientist. I'm building the AI Capitalist channel to help leaders like you navigate the raging torrent of data that has flooded our world. But that flood might be slowing to a trickle. I want you to picture a world with a divided internet. What would it look like? Take our heroine Jane. She was stuck in her London flat late at night, just mashing on the refresh button on her browser. Earlier that day, she finally got the token she needed to check out the Vietnam Online Public Library. It was crucial for her thesis, but because Vietnam was part of the AsiaNet zone, she had to jump through some hoops for access. To make things even more intense, an AI agent was keeping tabs on her every move, deciding what she could look at. So let's take another example. We have Ahmed, who was in the same boat, but he was in Egypt, and he was stuck in the ArabNet zone. He needed to get into the Euronet zone for some research and to chat with his sister, who had moved to France for school. He had to dig out his ID, explain what he wanted, and then just wait around for a token that would give him a few hours of access to some websites and archives. Again, all while being watched by AI agents. This future sounds pretty weird when you think about how we can just cruise around the internet today, right? It's basically the go-to spot for everything, and it's super quick. But as I mentioned in another piece about the geopolitics of data, maybe this whole idea isn't as crazy as it seems. So what exactly would a Splinternet look like? And what would that mean for us? Russia's already rolled out its own internet prison island, and let's not forget about China with the Great Firewall of China. These are some examples that are already happening. Some countries, especially the more authoritarian ones, have been restricting what people can see online for a long time. And when people get riled up, they often just hit the switch and shut down the internet completely. We saw this in Iran with several waves of protests where the government's solution was just to shut down the internet, round up all the protesters, and move on with life with them in prison. Many countries are trying to figure out how to deal with data sharing, mainly for taxes and to protect their economies. The end result might be a split internet. Countries are leaning more toward values-based alliances, usually breaking down into democracy versus autocracy. We can't ignore how populism and nationalism are shaking things up too. With globalization losing steam, the flow of information, always important for people, is definitely going to be affected. The growing problem of fake news, AI-created junk, and cyber warfare crime is making things messy. Countries are starting to team up not just for military and trade alliances, but also to tackle the information wars. Some are even using groups outside their jurisdiction to mess with other nations. Just like how isolationist ideas like nationalism and populism caused major problems in the past, creating separate internet zones would be a complete disaster. It would probably deepen the digital tribalism where distrust between countries and online spills over into real life, leading to trade barriers and tension between cultures. So don't get me wrong, nationalism and tribalism are both entrenched parts of the human mind and can provide huge benefits to society, especially when it comes to caring for other members of a society. A sense of solidarity is really important. But as the world breaks up into isolated regions and there's no contact between these different regions, there's a huge loss of idea sharing and even the basic ability to see the world through the eyes of other people. The whole idea of human rights and personal freedom is a diminished ideal in places like China and Russia, especially with how they control the internet. Any progress in human rights could take a real hit compared to democracies with open internets, where people can see what's going on in society. On the flip side, democratic countries that care about equality, human rights, and diversity might get fed up with the drama from state and non-state actors in autocratic societies. As a result, they could end up putting up firewalls to block out countries that don't align with them. Think of how much China has come up in the recent election in the United States. As countries develop their tech at different paces, we could see some places cruising ahead while others get stuck in a rut of very slow progress, just like we've seen industrially. This situation could lead to several incompatible standards, making it even trickier to connect with each other if we decide to reintegrate the world. Another downside of these digital firewalls is it cuts off the ability of digital communities to keep in touch with their roots. It's hard for expats to stay connected with their homelands. This not only messes with family ties and cultural attitudes and movements, but it could also put a serious dent in trade opportunities. If people can't send money home easily, it could really hurt the remittances and the transfer of value from country to country. And if you feel that you're getting value from this episode, please hit the like button. So hitting it lets me know that I'm making content that you want to see, and it helps spread that content to others. I genuinely thank you for your support. You're really helping this channel grow and get out of small channel hell. People are social creatures, and we've been on the move around the globe for ages. We love connecting with others, especially with different cultures. We like to share ideas, and it sparks innovations. And then we just like to learn about each other. And you can find diaspora communities in just about every country. You can bet we're going to see some wild stuff happening with black market VPNs, and maybe even some decentralized apps coming up thanks to Web3 technology. And who knows, there could even be some sketchy identity tokens being sold to get into and out of different isolated webs, being sold by third parties looking to sneak a peek at the internet in other countries, a sort of black market of the internet, assuming these countries even stay connected at all physically. The deep web is likely going to blow up even more than it already has. So think of that as like a tangled up network that's riding on the back of the larger systems that we have. Internet service providers and other infrastructure companies might start creating these dark secondary internets where they can cash in by letting people access other countries and make transactions that ordinarily wouldn't be allowed through the normal firewalls that we're putting up. One force that might push this trend forward is deglobalization. With the ongoing crisis around the Levant and the Arabian Peninsula, we've already seen some small-time pirates from Yemen going out on jet skis, small boats, and helicopters. These guys are going down and cutting major internet cables that run through territorial waters they control. Now, one antidote to this might be Elon Musk's Starlink network, but even satellites require maintenance, orbit the Earth, and sometimes hit small air pockets, gradually pulling them out of orbit. They have to be replaced or reorbited. So it's not necessarily a solution, especially given how low these satellites have to fly if we're not maintaining them. Global trade's been declining over the last several years, and the United States is becoming a protectionist and isolationist country. Are American warships going to defend global internet cables from being severed by other governments, non-state actors, pirates, etc.? We could end up with a physically disconnected internet. The fallout from a split internet has a real impact on how we connect and share stories worldwide. It creates a barrier to storytelling, and it makes it very difficult to interact with other cultures. Stories connect people and communities, and are very important for our survival. If we start cutting ourselves off from telling stories and finding ways to relate to one another and see the world through each other's eyes, it's going to hold us back and hurt our progress and the progress of all of humanity at a time when we should really be coming together, especially because the technology gives us these abilities, even if we're rejecting them. It might not go down like this at all. This is just one of countless possible futures, but it's definitely worth considering as people who are eager to create a more connected world. The internet's got its issues, just like all the tech out there. But even when it seems rough, it's actually bringing us closer together. We're going through some very amazing social changes right now all across the world, and the internet is our hangout spot to unite and where we can converse with each other, even on opposite sides of a war. In the end, it's solely up to us how we choose to connect with one another.